in the deepest part of the jungle world called Varela, where the air was always warm and the trees glowed in the dark, there lived a creature that even the bravest warriors feared. Her name was Gear. She was not just another alien girl. Her bite was known across galaxies. One bite, just one, could kill any alien species within seconds. Her venom melted flesh, destroyed bones, and shut down nervous systems before the victim could even scream. She wasn't a monster by choice. She was born with a curse. Her people had used her in war, sent her into enemy bases to kill with a single bite. She never failed. She never needed a second attack. Wherever she walked, death followed. Many legends were told about her. Some called her the Golden Viper. Others called her the Queen of Death. No one ever dared to approach her closely till humans arrived. The United Human Coalition had sent a small team to explore Varela. Most of them didn't even know about Kira. But Commander Kane, a quiet but fearless human soldier, had read about her. He wasn't looking for a fight. He was looking for answers. One day, deep inside the glowing jungle, his squad stumbled upon a strange trap made of vines and bones. It was meant to capture something dangerous. Before anyone could warn him, the trap triggered and out came Jira. She looked like a goddess of death. Her skin was golden and marked with dark lines that looked like war tattoos. Her eyes glowed bright yellow and her silver-white hair moved like it was alive. But the most terrifying thing was her mouth. Her sharp fangs shimmered in the dim light. The soldiers panicked. Guns raised, fingers on triggers. But Kane lifted his hand. "Don't shoot," he said. "Let me speak to her." Kira's eyes narrowed. She hissed, low and deadly. "You know who I am, human." "Yes," Kane replied calmly. "You're Jir, the girl with the deadliest bite in the galaxy." "Then you should run," she growled. "Because if I bite you, your heart will stop before you can scream." The other soldiers backed away, but not Kane. He stepped closer. "Maybe," he said, "but maybe not." Jira's eyes widened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever walked toward her when she threatened them. Her heart raced, confused by his bravery. Was it foolishness? Before she could decide, the team fired a tranquilizer dart into her arm. She snarled, but the drug was strong. Her body fell to the ground. As her vision blurred, the last thing she saw was Kane kneeling beside her, whispering, "I don't think you're a monster." When she woke up, she was inside a human facility, strong walls, metal doors, and armed guards. But none of it scared her. She could escape if she wanted. No cell had ever held her long. But what caught her attention was the human who sat calmly outside her glass cell, Commander Kane. He visited every day. He brought her food, tried to talk, asked questions. At first, she ignored him. Then she threatened him. "Get close, and I'll bite your throat out." But he just smiled. "You won't," he said, "because you're tired of being alone." Something about him made her angry, but also curious. How could he be so calm? Didn't he know what she could do? And then, one day, she tested him. When he brought her food and leaned close to set it down, she lunged. Fast as lightning. Her fangs sank deep into the side of his hand. The guards screamed. Weapons raised. But Kane didn't fall. He didn't even flinch. He looked at his hand, then at her. "That's it," he said, almost teasing. "I expected more." Jira froze. Her venom should have killed him instantly. She felt it enter his blood. She was sure it did, but he was still standing, still breathing, still smiling. She backed away, her heart pounding. For the first time in her life, her bite had failed, and the only words Kane said as he walked away were, "I told you, aim, not like the others." Jira sat in silence. Her golden eyes locked on the bloodstain inside her glass seltha spot where she bit him. That moment kept playing in her head. She had never missed. Never, and yet Commander Kane had walked away. Laughing days passed. Scientists came and went. Guards stared at her like she was a bomb waiting to explode. But Kane? He kept visiting. No armor. No fear. Just calm eyes and a strange kindness in his voice. Sierra didn't understand it. She didn't want to. She had given him a warning, a final one with her fangs. And he ignored it. Now she was the one feeling something she had never felt before, doubt. She had been bred to be a weapon. Her species had injected venom into her bones before she could walk. When other children played, she trained to kill. Her bite was death. That was her only value. Her only power? So why didn't it work on him? Kane returned the next morning. His hand was bandaged, but he showed no sign of pain. He leaned against the wall outside her cell, holding 2 cups. Coffee? He asked, as if she were an old friend. Shira narrowed her eyes. Why are you here? To talk. You should be dead. I've been told that a lot, Kane said with a half smile. But here I am. Shira stood, her movements slow and sharp. I warned you. I bit you. And yet, ... Nothing. Something happened, he replied. Just not what you expected. She blinked. What do you mean? He walked closer, close enough for her to see the tiny scars on his face, the old burns on his neck. This was not a man who lived an easy life. I've seen more than you think, he said. Your bite was strong. I felt the burn, the heat in my blood. A bit. Faded, like my body swallowed it. Jira frowned. That's impossible. Maybe for others, he said softly, but humans adapt. Fast. The words hit her like a storm. Adapt. No alien had ever said that. Most species followed rules. Protocol, weaknesses stayed weaknesses. But humans, they were different. Wild, unpredictable, Kane sat on the floor, just outside the glass. You don't really want to kill, do you? Jira laughed bitterly. That's all I've ever done. Because they made you, he replied. But who are you when you're not biting people? Gira stepped closer. Why do you care? Attain. Looked up, because I don't think you're the monster they say you are. The silence between them grew heavy. Her heart beat faster, but it wasn't from rage this time. It was something else. Something strange. Something warm no one had. Ever asked who she was? Only what she could do. And now, here was this human, this strange, fearless, foolish man treating her like a person. Gira turned away, confused and angry. You should fear me. Kane stood up. Maybe, but I don't. He started to walk away, but stopped at the door. Without turning, he said, I'm not afraid of your bite, Gira. But maybe you are. The door closed behind him, leaving her in silence. Sierra touched her lips. Her fangs were still there. Her venom still boiled beneath her skin. But for the first time, she wasn't sure if it made her powerful lore, if it made her a prisoner. Because what scared her now was the man she couldn't kill. Sierra couldn't sleep. Not because the lights in her cell were too bright, or the guards outside whispered too loud, but because of the human who should have died, and didn't. Kane's words echoed in her mind. I'm not afraid of your bite, but maybe you are. That made no sense. She was death in flesh. Her venom had ended wars. Her touch was feared. Entire species avoided her planet because of stories told in whispers, yet one human had walked right through all of it. Smiling, she paced back and forth, her bare feet making soft sounds on the metal floor. Something inside her was changing. Not physically, though. Even that felt strange, but emotionally. Her chest felt heavy. Her thoughts ran wild. Why didn't her bite kill him? Why didn't he hate her? Why did she feel seen? The next day, the door opened again. Cain entered not with weapons or armor, but with a datapad and a strange-looking fruit. "You've been restless," he said. "This might help." Sierra didn't move. She watched him closely, expecting a trick, but none came. He simply sat down outside the glass, as if he belonged there. She finally asked, "Why do you keep coming back?" He raised an eyebrow. "'Cause you fascinate me." Her eyes narrowed. "You should fear me. The venom in my bite, I know." He cut in. "You've said that before, but here's the thing. Maybe I'm built different." Sierra tilted her head. "What does that mean?" Cain pulled up a screen on the datapad. Images of blood tests, DNA scans, and toxin breakdowns appeared. "When you bit me," he said, "our medics expected me to die, but instead, my blood reacted. It neutralized your venom. Not fully, but fast enough. Our scientists think my body saw your venom like a virus and evolved to fight it." Sierra stared at the screen, stunned. "That's impossible." "For most species, yes," Cain nodded. "But humans don't follow the same rules. We grow under pressure. We change. We survive." Sierra looked at him, something like awe blooming behind her glowing eyes. "You're not just different. You're dangerous." Cain gave a slow smile, only to those who deserve it. A long silence followed. This time, not heavy with fear but curiosity. Sierra stepped closer to the glass. Her fingers touched the surface as she whispered, "So, I couldn't kill you, even if I tried again." Cain stood. He walked up to the glass, just inches from her hand. "Try again if you want," he said softly. "But I think you won't." Sierra felt her throat tighten. No one had ever dared her like that. No one had ever spoken with such calm defiance. Such understanding. She didn't respond. She just sat down on her side of the glass. For the first time, they sat together, divided by the wall. But something deeper had already crossed it. Later that night, alone once more, Sierra looked at her hand. She remembered the feel of his warmth near the glass. Remembered how he didn't even flinch when she threatened him. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I'm built different too." And as sleep finally took her, a thought crept into her dreams. What if she wasn't created to destroy, but to protect? Something was wrong with Sierra. Or maybe something was finally right. Ever since she bit Cain, her body had been reacting. In strange ways, her venom glands pulsed differently. The burning heat that usually filled her veins when she was angry now felt quieter, focused, and worse, her dreams were no longer nightmares of death and war. They were about him, Commander Cain, the human who should have died. The one who smiled after she bit him, the one who kept returning, even when she pushed him away. She didn't understand what was happening, but she needed answers. So when the medtechs entered her cell for routine scans, she didn't resist. Instead, she asked, "Test my venom. Something has changed." They looked shocked. Sierra never asked for anything, never allowed scans, but today she sat still, eyes glowing with purpose. The results came back within hours. Scientists whispered. Outside her cell, Cain arrived quickly, reading the report with tight brows. Sierra pressed her hand against the glass. "Tell me," Cain hesitated, then answered, "Your venom is mutating. It's no longer universally lethal. It's adapting, specifically to human biology." She stared. "Because of you?" "Possibly." He nodded. "Or maybe it's because, for the first time, you didn't want to kill." Sierra turned away. "That's not possible. I'm a weapon, built to destroy." "No," Cain said firmly. "You were forced to be one. That doesn't mean you have to stay one." His words hit her deeper than any tranquilizer ever could. Back in her cell, she touched her own neck, the same place she used to bite enemies. What did it mean if her venom no longer obeyed her instincts? Was she losing control? Or finally, gaining it? Later that night, Kane was called into the medical wing. One of the captured alien creatures had broken containment and released a toxic spore cloud. A human technician collapsed instantly. Others began coughing up blood. Kane ran through the smoke toward the infected chamber, holding a mask over his face. That's when he saw Azira's cell was still sealed. But she had seen everything through the glass. Without a second thought, Jira slammed her fist into the reinforced barrier. Alarms screamed. The guards rushed toward her, but they were too slow. Her arm, bleeding from the impact, was already outstretched as Kane reached her. "Stop," she shouted. "Let me through. I can help him." Kane hesitated for only a second, then opened her cell. Gira knelt beside the dying technician. Her claws pierced her own arm, releasing a small stream of venom. She placed a drop on his lips and another on his open wound. Everyone gasped. Moments passed. The man stopped coughing. His skin color returned. The toxin was fading. Kane stared in disbelief. Your venom saved him. Gira stood, weak but steady. Something inside me changed when I bit you. I don't understand it, but now I can control it. The guards raised their weapons. Protocol demanded she be restrained. But Kane stepped in front of her. She saved a human, he said. You saw it? Her venom is no longer just a weapon, it's a cure. The commander of the base called for emergency talks. For now, Zyra was allowed to return to her cell. But under protection, not imprisonment. Back inside, Kane leaned against the wall, watching her silently. Do you believe me now? She asked softly. I believed in you before the venom changed, he replied. Shira sat down slowly. I don't know what I'm becoming. Kane looked at her, his voice low. Maybe something better. And for the first time in her life, Jira hoped he was right. To be continued in Part 5, When Curiosity Turns to Bond. Let me know when to continue to Part 5, where emotions grow and the lines between hunter and protector blur even more. Ask ChatGPT. Shira sat in silence, no longer behind bars, but behind invisible walls made of confusion, questions, and something else she couldn't name. Since the incident, the humans had stopped calling her a threat. They now called her Subject Z in their files, and potential asset in their meetings. But Kane, he still called her Jira. Just Jira, no labels. No fear. And that meant more than she wanted to admit. Every day, he came to see her not as a jailer, not as a scientist, but as a person. He would ask her about her past, her homeworld, her likes and dislikes. At first, Gira mocked him. Do you think if you talk long enough, I'll forget I was created to kill? But Kane never mocked back. He only smiled gently. No. But maybe you'll remember there's more to you than that. She hated how his words made her chest tighten. She hated how she started waiting for him to visit. Hated that her dreams now had his voice in them. One afternoon, he brought her a gift. A small crystal, glowing faintly with blue light. It's from a river on my homeworld, he said. We give it to people we trust. Jira didn't take it at first. You trust me? After I bit you. You had a reason, Kane replied. You were afraid. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the stone. And now? I think you're still afraid, he said. But now you're also curious. She looked away. Curious, yes, but not just about him. About herself. About who she was becoming. Later that evening, an alarm blared in the base. A rogue alien species, one that once tried to enslave Jira's kind, had launched. A surprise attack. The soldiers scrambled. Explosions shook the walls. Gira stood at her door, watching the chaos. Then, she saw Cain back against a wall, blood on his temple, his gun jammed. Without thinking, she sprinted toward him. The guards shouted, "Get back!" But she moved too fast. Her claws slashed through the enemy's armor like paper. The creature fell, stunned by her venom. Gira stood over Cain, breathing hard, her golden eyes glowing brighter than ever. "You should have stayed hidden," she said, helping him up. "I knew you'd come," Cain whispered. "Why?" "'Cause I trust you," he replied. That night, the council reviewed the footage. The alien girl they once caged had defended a human soldier, risked her life to save him. The next morning, Gira was moved to a private room, not a cell. There were no guards this time. Only Cain sitting on the edge of her bed, handing her a mug of warm human tea. "You didn't have to save me," he said. "I didn't do it for you," she replied quickly, then added, softer, "Not only for you." Cain looked at her with quiet eyes. "You're changing, Gira." She shook her head. "No. I think I'm remembering who I was before they turned me into this." They sat in silence. No glass walls, no weapons. Only two souls, alien and human, drawn together not by duty, but something unspoken. Gira finally asked, "Do humans always talk this much when they care?" Cain chuckled. "Only when we're scared someone might walk away." Gira didn't smile, but she also didn't look away. "I'm not walking away," she said. "Not yet." And in that quiet room, among broken histories and uncertain futures, a bond was born not from venom or war, but from choice. The world outside Gira's new room was still the same: cold walls, flashing lights, weapons hidden in every corner. But inside, something had changed. Not just in the room, but inside her. She no longer dreamed of screams and blood. Now, her dreams were strange. She saw Cain's smile. She heard his voice. And more than once, she woke up with her hand pressed to her chest, where her heart beat faster than it ever had before. Her venom no longer felt like poison. It felt live in the labs. Scientists noticed it first. Gira's blood was regenerating faster than before. Her claws retracted when she was calm. Her fangs no longer dripped uncontrollably. The venom inside her was evolving. No longer a weapon alone, but something that responded to her emotions. Her will. Cain called it a miracle. The council called it a threat. "She's unstable," one official said. "Her biology is rewriting itself. If we can't control it, we eliminate it." But Cain stood firm in the meeting. "You didn't see what I saw. She saved lives. She stopped the enemy. And she controlled her venom. She didn't kill. She chose to protect." The council hesitated. Gira's survival depended on proof, so Cain made a risky choice. He invited Gira into the open no-cell. No guards, no barriers. A test of trust. A test of change. When she walked into the room, everyone tensed. But Gira did not snarl. She did not threaten. She bowed her head. "I am not what I was," she said calmly. "I don't want to be used as a weapon anymore." One of the scientists sneered. "Words are cheap. What if you lose control again?" Gira paused. Her golden eyes met Cain's across the room. Then, without warning, she lifted her arm and sliced her own skin with her claw. Gasps echoed. Blood dripped. Gira held out her other hand and touched the wound. Her venom, glowing faintly, flowed to the injury, then sealed it. In seconds, the wound was gone. "I no longer destroy," she said softly. "Now I heal." Silence fell. The transformation was undeniable. Her body was changing. Her purpose, her energy, everything was new. That night, Kane visited her in the quiet garden outside the facility. She sat under the alien stars, watching strange blue flowers bloom under moonlight. He joined her silently, sitting close. But not too close. "You didn't flinch today," she said. "Not even when I bled." "I never will," he replied. "Because I believe in what you're becoming." Gira looked at her hand, once soaked in blood, now steady and calm. "Do you think I was meant for this?" "I think," Kane said slowly, "you were meant to survive. And to choose your own path." For the first time, Gira smiled. Not a smirk, not a sneer. A real smile. "You humans are strange," she said. "Maybe," Kane replied, "but maybe strange is what you needed." She leaned her head back, staring at the stars. "Then maybe I was built for something more than fear." And in that garden, surrounded by silence, moonlight, and unspoken feelings, the galaxy's deadliest girl began to understand that true power was not in killing. It was in choosing not to. The galaxy didn't change overnight, but something had begun. Something small, something powerful, and it all started with one bite that didn't kill. Gira stood before the Grand Assembly of Allied Species, 30 leaders from 30 worlds, all watching her with a mix of fear, curiosity, and disbelief. Just months ago, she had been chained like a wild creature. Now, she stood tall, not as a weapon, but as a voice, a symbol. A choice dot next to her stood Commander Kane, quiet as always, but his presence was steady like a rock in the middle of a storm. He wasn't there to lead. He was there because Gira asked him to stand beside her, not as her guard, not as her commander, but as her partner. Gira took a slow breath. Her claws were retracted, her fangs hidden. But her voice calm, powerful echoed through the grand chamber. "I was created to kill," she began. "Trained to be a monster, used as a tool." Gasps rippled through the crowd. She raised her hand. "But I bit a human, and he lived." Silence followed. Even the recorders paused. "Instead of dying, he showed me something no one ever had: mercy. Trust, a reason to live beyond my venom." She turned toward Kane. He gave her a small nod. "My venom is no longer just poison," she continued. "It can heal, it can protect, and I choose who I want to be now." A loud voice rose from the back. "And what if you lose control again?" Gira looked directly at the speaker. "Then hold me accountable. But don't silence what you fear before it has the chance to become something better." The assembly whispered, debated, argued, but they didn't shout her down. They listened, because Gira wasn't just speaking for herself anymore. She was speaking for every being labeled dangerous before they had a chance to be understood. And Kane. He was the proof that understanding was possible. When the assembly ended, the votes were tally. Gira was granted status as an independent protector, no longer a prisoner, no longer a threat. Later, in the quiet of the garden beneath alien stars, Kane and Gira stood side by side again. They listened, she whispered. "They saw you," Key replied. She looked at him for a long time, then asked, "Why didn't my venom kill you, really?" He smiled. "Maybe I was built different. Or maybe you bit me differently than anyone else." She chuckled, shaking her head. "I still don't understand you, human." Kane stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers. "You don't have to. Just don't stop choosing your own path." She looked up at the stars. Once they had felt so cold. So far now they felt full of possibilities. "I won't," she said softly, "and maybe the galaxy won't either." That night, the story of the alien girl whose deadly bite failed to kill a human began to spread, not as a warning, but as a legend. The legend of the girl who learned to heal, and the human who taught her how. The bite that once ended lives. Had just started a revolution.